So you might have previously categorized yourself as having had an anxious attachment style or an avoidant one, or maybe fearful avoidant. But the interesting thing about the attachment styles is that they're very fluid and that they can change depending on who you're with, because essentially they are all the same thing: fear. It's fear running the show, expressing itself in different ways. So I don't know if you've had the experience of being with someone and feeling very, very anxious because they appear to be avoidant. But when someone comes close to you and they are showing up as really wanting intimacy and closeness and they seem to really like you, you run a mile because that doesn't feel safe either. So essentially, both of these situations present an opportunity to overcome that fear of intimacy, rejection, abandonment, whatever it is. So I thought it might be interesting to share with you a time when I felt avoidant and overwhelmed, and how my nervous system responded when my partner didn't seem to understand that. So I definitely used to be anxious. I used to be so anxious, really obsessive, checking my phone all the time, really wanting to know where this person was and what they were doing or whatever. But as the relationship got closer, I really started to feel overwhelmed and need space. So this is really classic of avoidance. We start to feel really overwhelmed when we are in too much of a close proximity, and where we can't get that space to soothe our nervous system, we are likely to just retreat, withdraw, stonewall, shut down. As a way of getting it, it's our nervous system really trying to protect us. So me, as an avoidant, I started to feel like, oh my God, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. And I started to have questions like, maybe I don't know if I want to be with this person, maybe we're not right for each other, and all of these things. But really what I wanted was space. I wanted to be connected to myself again. But this person just didn't get it, and wasn't being someone that I could say, this is what I'm feeling, because I was a conscious avoidant person, very conscious of my avoidance. I knew that this was coming up and I wanted to heal it. So here we go, some evidence for you that some avoidance actually can be conscious enough to want to overcome it, and it does happen. But it can only happen where the two people can be conscious together, so that you can create the safety that is needed for that to happen. So I found that where I was saying, I'm feeling really overwhelmed and I need some space, I need to pull back, and it's not because of you, it's because my nervous system is feeling overwhelmed. And this person really took that as, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You already had space. And that felt very unsafe for me, like it did in my childhood. You know, to be gaslit in my childhood, which is what happened. This is what avoidance is. Wherever you express an emotion and it's not being met with in a safe place, you start to believe that being emotionally vulnerable is not safe. So in this particular relationship that I'm talking about, I wanted very much to overcome this, but it was met with this other person's anxiety. And so I never got to be able to overcome it. And what that did is make me go, I'm not safe, I need to leave. And so I felt really overwhelmed. And this just goes to show you, doesn't it, that neither anxious or avoidance is bad or good. It just is, it is what it is. And both people want to be able to be in a safe place for them to overcome these patterns. But very often with avoidance, people who are avoidant don't realize that they're avoidant, and they think that that's just who they are. Okay, so if you're avoidant and you're thinking, I know I'm avoidant and I want to overcome it, or I know I can be avoidant in certain situations, your superpower with this is being able to name and acknowledge your feelings in your body and express them. That is absolutely the best way to be able to start to feel safe with someone. And where you might find yourself with a secure person, that is more likely to happen. But if you end up with someone who's anxious and takes things personally and then attacks you, like the avoidant can do as well with the anxious person, then this is less likely to be possible. So, like I say, in this situation, I was conscious enough to be able to say, I'm feeling really overwhelmed, need some space, isn't because of you. And I really need this space because I know that it's going to affect our relationship if I don't get it. And this other person was like, essentially, no. No, I'm not going to give you the space. And that was really, really overwhelming for me. So that meant that I just shut down. And I withdrew. And I didn't feel safe to be vulnerable. I started to feel like I couldn't trust this person. And I started to see them with a really negative lens. And I found it really frustrating because I knew that this negative lens was being made by fear, not by reality. But where I wasn't being given, basically, it didn't feel like I was being given permission to regulate the way that I needed to as an avoidant. Then it felt like I had to just pull back, and essentially that relationship ended because of that. And so two people were literally just triggering each other, the anxious, the avoidant. When the anxious was anxious, the avoidant became avoidant. When the avoidant was being avoidant, the anxious became anxious. It was just like the absolute loop of doom. Both people became against each other instead of working together. And so essentially, I hope this is insightful for you to be able to see it from the other perspective, that it's not bad or wrong, but in a conscious relationship, which is what we are all aiming to be investing in, right? With basically the part of us that knows I can be secure. And so this is my opportunity to be that. There is that part of us that allows us to evolve into that. We want to be in these conscious relationships because that's going to give us permission to become the people and the partners that we actually want to be. But where we don't have the opportunity one way or the other, whether that's, that you're avoidant and you're with an anxious person, or you're anxious and you're with someone who's being avoidant, then it makes it very, very difficult. And previously in the last few videos, I've talked about how difficult it is for the anxious person. But I'd like to just sort of give you this perspective, not to sort of, again, it's not about who's right or wrong, who's good or bad. It's just a perspective of the nervous system responses and what's happening, so that you can have a compassionate inquiry about what's been happening for you in the relationships without making someone bad. But I do know that this can turn nasty. It can turn really horrible, because essentially all of these coping mechanisms, attachment styles, are like defense mechanisms, aren't they? And one of the nervous system responses is fight. So being in fight mode can look really not very nice. I know that I've been on the other side of this, being an anxious person too, and being in a situation where I've really wanted intimacy and connection, and the avoidant has gone, oh my God, no, and then felt really overwhelmed, and then felt like that I was a threat and that I was judging them, and then they attacked me back. And it's just like, it can become really, really toxic if neither or both of you are not conscious enough. And if you've experienced that, being on the other side of it, sometimes it can feel like this other person just really doesn't like you. And you're like, what the hell is going on? I just wanted connection and closeness. So this is where you've really got to take a step back and know that you're both basically in survival mode, which means that in order for that to evolve, you have to be able to really express what you're feeling. Yeah, you have it, even if it doesn't make sense to you, to be able to just say, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Can we talk about it? This is what I need. This, I think, would help me. And for it to land in a safe place is how you heal these attachment styles, one way or the other, we do heal in relationship, but when you're not in a relationship, this is a really good opportunity for you to get to know yourself and for you to understand how you work and reflect on, journal on the way things have been. So I hope you found this video useful. If you'd like any more information about what I do, how you can work with me, I've got information in the links below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.